Hey, welcome back, you guys. I'm Alice, and oh my gosh, today's reading, I have a feeling this one is going to really resonate. This one's for you if you've been holding on to a long held dream, something you've waited for, worked for, maybe even bled for, and you're still asking, is it ever actually going to happen? And before we get into the cards, if you've been seeing a particular sign lately, especially involving animals showing up in unexpected places, making eye contact with you in that way that stops you mid-step, stay with me until the very end, because the cards have something to say about that directly. Let's find out. The cards are out, 9 of them, and together they're going to tell you something you've needed to hear for a very long time. Drop a comment and let me know how this lands for you. I read every single one. All right, let's get into it. First card, and I need to take a breath before I even start. We have the Star, and this card doesn't show up for people who are just casually wishing for things. It doesn't. The Star shows up for people who carry something, a real, genuine, bone-deep longing, the kind that's been with you so long it almost feels like part of who you are. I have to share something personal real quick. A while back, I needed a very specific book for my practice, not a popular one. I didn't order it, didn't go searching. I just put it out there quietly from a real place. Within a week, a woman I barely knew handed it to me, just placed it in my hands like it was nothing. And I stood there thinking, this is how it works. When the desire is real, when it comes from the soul, not the ego, the universe moves. People become instruments of something bigger without even realizing it. That's the star energy. That's what's sitting right here in your reading. Look at the imagery. A woman kneeling at the edge of the water, 1 foot on the ground, 1 in the water, pouring from 2 vessels freely, not hoarding, not calculating. Above her, 8 stars, 1 large central star surrounded by 7 others, a completely clear open sky. This is restored faith. Hope that isn't naive. It's earned. The kind you arrive at after you've been through something real, that dream you've been carrying. We have the 8 of Cups. And if you've been feeling like everything around you keeps shifting, keeps changing, but the one thing you actually want just stays out of reach, this card sees you completely. A figure, cloaked, walking away through the night, under a partial eclipse. 8 cups in the foreground, 7 standing solid, 1 gap where the 8th should be. The figure isn't running, just walking, steadily, away from something that looks almost complete but somehow isn't enough. That gap in the cups? That's the thing you can't stop thinking about. The 8 of Cups isn't giving up. People misread this one all the time. This is someone brave enough to acknowledge that what they've built still leaves something essential missing, something that can't be patched over or reasoned away. And the question you're really sitting with isn't just when, it's whether it's still possible, whether you've missed your window. That eclipse in the background, an eclipse isn't a disappearance, it's temporary. 1 light moves in front of another, everything goes dim and strange, and then it passes. Both the sun and moon come out exactly where they've always been, unchanged, still fully themselves. That's where you are right now, in the eclipse. You're in transition, that uncomfortable in-between where the old way of waiting doesn't work anymore and the new chapter hasn't opened yet. That's exactly where you are. I'm not going to pretend that isn't hard. 20 years of reading cards and the in-between spaces are always the hardest. Always. But the figure is walking toward the mountains, not away from life, toward something higher. That's not abandonment. That's alignment finally beginning to happen. The long-awaited isn't dead. It's on the other side of this particular night. And I want to be careful with this one because what came out here is intimate. It describes a person. Down to the bone, we have the Hermit, Major Arcana, an old man at the top of a mountain, cloaked, still, holding a lantern out in front of him, not to light a crowd, just enough light for the next step, completely alone up there. But here's what people miss every single time. He climbed that mountain, nobody carried him, and he's not lost. He's exactly where he chose to be. That's you. You process the world at a depth most people around you simply don't. You've always done this. Even when you were younger, you were asking questions that made people uncomfortable, not because you were difficult, but because surface-level answers were never enough. You needed the actual truth underneath the version everyone else was happy to accept. That's the lantern. That's what you carry. It's a gift. but it's also been a weight, because when you see clearly, you can't unsee. And there have been people and situations where seeing the truth left you standing alone with something nobody else wanted to look at. That mountaintop, it gets lonely. Drop a 1 in the comments if that landed. Because I feel like that one landed. The hermit is also deeply analytical. This isn't someone who decides from impulse. This is someone who observes, weighs, considers, sometimes to the point of exhaustion. You've probably been told you overthink things, and you probably had to bite your tongue because from where you were standing, everyone else was just underthinking them. Honestly, you were probably right. And underneath all of this, unresolved emotional weight, old stuff, because somewhere along the way, you learned to intellectualize your feelings instead of actually feel them, to analyze the wound rather than sit with it. That works up to a point. But part of that isolation at the top of the mountain is a protection mechanism that was built a long time ago and hasn't been updated since. Then there's this, the staff in one hand, the lantern in the other. The staff is the material world, stability, structure, keeping the lights on. The lantern is the spiritual world, inner knowing, truth-seeking. You've been carrying both for a long time, and they don't always pull in the same direction. The spiritual part of you knows exactly what's aligned, and the material reality says yes, but the timing, yes, but the money, yes, but what's realistic. That gap shows up in the bones, in the tiredness that sleep doesn't fix, in the restlessness that comfort doesn't touch. But what the hermit is saying gently from the top of that mountain is that the lantern you carry is real. The wisdom you've accumulated through every hard thing you've lived through is real. And it's time to stop treating it like a burden and start recognizing it as the most valuable thing you own. The hermit climbed the mountain so the light could be seen from further away. That's you. That's always been you. And I'm going to take a breath because what came out is heavy and it needs to be honored properly. We have the 10 of Wands, a figure bent almost completely forward under the weight of 10 bundled wands, hauling toward a distant town you can just barely make out in the background. Close enough to see, far enough to feel like it's always just out of reach. That figure is you. That's been you. This isn't just about being tired, although yes, you're tired, and the cards see that completely. The 10 of Wands is about someone who decided, consciously or not, that if something was going to get done, they were going to have to be the one to do it. Someone who invested deeply, consistently, money, time, energy they genuinely didn't have to spare because they believed in it, because when you commit to something, you go all in, and some of what you built was real, genuinely worth it. The 10 of Wands doesn't show up for people who wasted their effort on nothing. It shows up for people who worked hard on something that mattered. But here's what I need to name directly. Carrying this much for this long without breaking, that's not normal. That's extraordinary. Most people would have set it down. You kept going not because you didn't see the weight, but because you believed in what was on the other side of it. That belief is the same quality that's going to make everything coming next feel completely earned. You won't just receive what's coming and you'll know exactly what it cost, and that knowledge is what makes good things last. The weight was real, and the character it built in you, that's real too. And this one came out and I felt my chest tighten. We have the 3 of Swords. If the 10 of Wands was the story of what you gave, the 3 of Swords is the story of what it cost you that nobody talks about. 3 swords driven straight through a heart, rain pouring down, no softening, no decoding needed, just pain. Direct. Undeniable. Someone betrayed you, maybe more than once. And I'm not using that word lightly. Betrayal is specific. It's when someone who had your trust used it against you, someone who knew how much you'd invested, how wide open you were, and chose to do something with that knowledge that served them and cost you. Here's the connection I need to name. The 10 of Wands figure is bent forward, head down, can't see what's coming, too focused on the load, on getting to that town on the horizon. That posture is exactly how betrayal finds people like you. Not because you're naive, but because you were so committed to what you were building that you didn't see it coming from the side. And when it landed, it knocked something loose. Something about trust, about whether it was safe to be that open again. Drop a 2 if you felt that. The loneliness underneath all of this, it wasn't just being alone, it was the specific loneliness of someone who gave generously, showed up fully, carried more than their share. and looked up one day to find nobody was carrying anything for them. That particular kind of alone settles into the chest in a way that's very hard to shake. But the hermit's lantern never went out. Not when the betrayal landed, not when the weight was at its heaviest. You picked up the wands and kept walking toward that horizon, with the lantern still in your hand. Those 3 swords still need to come out, for your sake, not anyone else's, because you can't carry the 10 of Wands load and have 3 swords in your heart and expect to walk freely into what's coming next. And what's coming next is worth walking freely into. None of it broke you. That's the most important thing this card is saying today. That's not a small thing, that's everything. Next card, stop what you're doing and be present for this one. Because after everything we've walked through, the weight, the betrayals, the loneliness, this card landed and I felt something lift in the room. We have the 10 of Pentacles, and this isn't just a nice card. This is the answer. A family gathered in an archway assess an elder with 2 white dogs, a couple, a child reaching up. A prosperous home. And in the foreground, 10 pentacles arranged in the Kabbalistic tree of life. Complete, integrated, multi-generational abundance. Not one area of life doing well while others crumble. Everything. The whole picture. This card doesn't show up for people getting a piece of what they wanted. It shows up for people getting the full version. The real version. The one they stopped letting themselves imagine because hoping for the whole thing felt too dangerous. I'm telling you right now that this card is pointing at the whole thing. Family happiness, the real, grounded, lasting, the warmth, the belonging, the feeling of home that's genuinely yours. And for those holding a longing around children, whether becoming a parent, deepening a relationship with kids already in your life, or healing a family fracture, the 10 of Pentacles is speaking directly to that. This is lineage, continuation, and career, because the abundance here isn't passive, it's built. That elder didn't just receive this life, he constructed it piece by piece, sometimes not knowing if the next piece would come. Sound familiar? What you've been building has been accumulating. What's coming isn't a small step forward. It's a consolidation, a recognition, a level of stability that finally matches the level of effort you've been putting in for years. Drop a 3 if something in your chest just shifted. You spent years bent under the 10 of Wands, years with 3 swords in your heart, years alone at the top of that mountain with your lantern and your unanswered questions. The 10 of Pentacles is what was always waiting at the other end of all of that. The dream was never wrong, never too big, never too late. Next card, and it arrived right on the heels of the 10 of Pentacles like a confirmation from a completely different direction. We have the Ace of Wands, if the 10 of Pentacles is the destination. The Ace of Wands is the energy that gets you there. A hand emerging from a cloud, holding a single wand, alive, budding, green shoots coming right off the wood. Pure creative fire, the very first spark of something completely new. The long chapter of carrying and hoping and doubting is ending, but simultaneously, something entirely new is also beginning. Something you may not have even conceived of yet. A new version of yourself that gets to exist in this new landscape. This isn't continuation, this is ignition. And here's what matters about timing. The Ace of Wands doesn't do slowly, it doesn't tiptoe. When the shift comes, it's going to feel sudden, not because nothing was building, but because there's a moment where the dam breaks and everything that's been accumulating just moves, all at once. The 10 of Pentacles is the harvest, the Ace of Wands is the fire, and you're about to have both at the same time. That moment is now. 2 more cards. They arrive together. What came out isn't a contradiction of everything we just saw. This is the explanation, the answer to why the road to the dream has been this hard. We have the 7 of Swords and the Moon, and then I'm going to tell you what it means that a cat has been appearing to you, because that sign isn't random, not even slightly. The 7 of Swords first, a figure sneaking away from a military camp, arms full of swords, 5 taken, 2 left behind, looking back over his shoulder with an expression that's almost smug. Almost. Like he thinks he got away with something, like he believes nobody saw him. The camp is still there in the background. The tents, the people, the life he's stealing from, all still visible. He just thinks he's invisible to it. That figure isn't you, that's someone in your orbit. The 7 of Swords, in this position, is pointing to interference. Third-party energy, someone who's been operating in the background of your life in a way that's not clean, not transparent, Maybe presenting one face to you and a completely different one when you're not in the room. Maybe taking things you said in confidence, reshaping them, using them to create a version of you in other people's minds that doesn't match who you actually are. Gossip, quiet manipulation, the kind that never announces itself because the moment it does, it loses all its power. Does any of that feel familiar? Now the moon, a full moon between two towers, a dog and a wolf howling up at it from the ground, a crayfish emerging from a pool, and everything bathed in that strange, silvery, unreliable light that makes familiar things look distorted, makes shadows look like shapes, makes you question what you're actually seeing. And that's the moon doing what the moon does: illusion, confusion, the space between what's real and what fear has constructed. The part of your inner life where anxiety lives and where the stories you tell yourself at 3 a.m. take on a weight and a solidity that they don't actually have in daylight. Here's what these two cards are doing together. The Seven of Swords is the external interference, real, actual, genuinely happening. Your instincts about certain people being off? Correct. I'm not going to minimize that. But the moon is showing me that this interference found its way inside, got into the places where your fears already lived, and made them louder, made you doubt yourself when you should have trusted yourself, made you question your own worthiness in ways that served the interference and cost you. Some of those fears were planted, and they grew in the dark because that's what fear does when nobody shines a light on it. Drop a 4 if you've been carrying a fear lately that you can't fully explain, one that feels bigger than the situation warrants, one that whispers the good things aren't really going to happen, that you'll be disappointed again. That fear has a source, and its source isn't your intuition. Your intuition, the same quiet knowing the hermit carried at the top of that mountain, the deep signal the star confirmed is real, is clear and true. This fear is the moon distorting the signal. It's the residue of other people's interference deposited in you, and it's not yours to carry. And that's exactly where the next sign comes in. Now, the cat. If a cat has been crossing your path lately, appearing at your door, making eye contact in that particular way that feels like it's seeing something you can't, here's what the cards are saying about that sign. In pretty much every ancient tradition, Egyptian, Celtic, you name it, the cat is a guardian of the threshold, a hunter of what hides in the dark. It doesn't just tolerate the unseen world, it patrols it. When a cat appears during a period where real shadow energy has been operating, it's a signal that the interference is being actively dismantled. That the Seven of Swords figure sneaking away with his stolen swords, thinking nobody can see him. Something sees him. Its eyes work perfectly in the dark. The protection is already in place. The dismantling is already underway. You don't need to track down every thread yourself. You don't need to confront every person, trace every whisper. The cat doesn't explain its hunting to the mice. It just hunts. The Seven of Swords figure always gets caught eventually. The moon always gives way to sunrise. The darkness ends. The distortions clear. And in the morning light, what was hidden becomes visible, and what was feared loses its shape. But the cat is at your door, and that means the night is already ending. Trust the sign. Trust the protection. Trust that what's been working against you in the dark doesn't survive the light, and the light is coming faster than you think. Okay, let's bring this home. This reading came out as one of the most complete, cohesive spreads I've done in a long time. Every card spoke to the one before it. Every card built something, and I want to make sure you leave here with the full picture held in both hands. Here's what the cards told us today. You've been carrying a real dream. Not a casual wish, but a bone-deep longing that's been with you so long it's almost become part of who you are. The very first thing this reading did was confirm that dream. The star came out first, before any of the difficulty. The foundation of this entire reading is this. What you're carrying is real. It came from the right place, and the universe has already registered it. Then the card showed us the cost of staying faithful to something real. The Eight of Cups. In the eclipse, in the in-between, walking away from almost enough towards something that actually matches what you carry inside. The Hermit, the depth, the analytical mind, the quiet loneliness of someone who's always seen more clearly than the people around them, carrying that lantern alone longer than they should have had to. The Ten of Wands. The head-down, load-bearing chapter that went on longer than it should have. And the Three of Swords. The betrayals, the unmatched investment, the specific grief of someone who gave generously and looked up to find nobody carrying anything for them. We didn't flinch from any of it, we named it all. And then the cards answered it, the 10 of Pentacles, the full picture, the actual version you stopped letting yourself imagine. Family warmth, career recognition, real, lasting abundance. And right behind it, the Ace of Wands. Not just completion, but ignition. Something new beginning at the exact same moment the harvest arrives. Both at once. Then the 7 of Swords and the Moon closed the loop, naming the interference in the shadows, the fears that grew in the dark, and attached to all the good things coming. And then the cat showed up and told us everything we needed to know. The protection is in place, the dismantling is underway, the night is already ending. Here's the through line of this entire reading. You are someone who kept the light burning when every circumstance said it was reasonable to let it go. Through the eclipse, through the betrayal, through the weight. The lantern never went out. That's the whole story. And the story ends at the 10 of Pentacles. The dream is real. The foundation is solid. The destination was always this. And you're almost there. And now I just want to speak to you directly, not as someone wrapping up a card reading, just person to person. Because the cards today weren't only showing me your circumstances, they were showing me you, who you are, what you carry, what you're sometimes too exhausted or too beaten down by the weight of it all to fully see in yourself. You're not ordinary. I know that sounds like something people say, and I know it's easy to hear and hard to actually receive, but the spread that came out today, the way the star anchored everything from the very first position, the way the Hermit's lantern kept showing up as the through line through every single hard card, the way the 10 of Pentacles landed without hesitation at the end of all that weight, that doesn't appear for just anyone. That appears for someone who has done the work, who has kept going, who has chosen again and again to stay faithful to something real, even when the road was dark and the fears were saying it was never going to happen. That's you. That's who's watching this right now. The Hermit showed up in the middle of this reading and named you so precisely. The depth, the analytical mind, the lantern, the specific loneliness of someone who sees more clearly than the people around them and has had to live with what that costs. That clarity, that thing that's felt like a weight your whole life, is the most valuable thing you own. The people coming into this next chapter, the 10 of Pentacles chapter, are going to be drawn to exactly that light. Not despite everything you've been through, because of it. Wisdom that was earned looks completely different from wisdom that was inherited. And you can feel the difference immediately. That's what you bring. And the right people are going to recognize it the moment they're in your presence. So let yourself believe, even just a little more than you did before you clicked on this video, that the life you've been imagining is not a fantasy, that the dream is not too big and it's not too late, that the interference operating in the shadows around you is already being dealt with by something older and quieter and more effective than anything you could organize yourself. And that the cat at your door, that's not a coincidence. That's your protection already in place. And that, you guys, is what the cards had to say today. 9 cards, 1 arc, 1 through line that never broke from the first position to the last. The star, the dream confirmed, already registered. The 8 of Cups. The in-between honored, because what looks like waiting is actually movement. The Hermit, the depth of who you are named without softening, and everything that lantern has cost, and everything it's worth. The 10 of Wands, the investment acknowledged, the chapter that built the character that makes everything coming next feel completely earned. The 3 of Swords, the betrayals named, the grief of unmatched investment spoken out loud, given the space it deserved. And then the answer, the 10 of Pentacles, the full picture, not a compromise, the actual thing, the Ace of Wands, the ignition, the new fire starting at the exact same moment the harvest arrives, the 7 of Swords and the Moon, the interference named, the illusion seen clearly, the shadows finally brought into the light, and the cat, the guardian at the threshold, already hunting what hides in the dark, already working on your behalf. It's all here. Every piece of it. You are someone who is protected, who is genuinely on the edge of something real and beautiful and fully earned. Don't let the noise convince you otherwise. Don't let the fears the moon made bigger than they are pull your eyes away from where you're going. Don't let the 7 of Swords energy take up space in the life that belongs to you. Keep the lantern burning, trust the dream, trust the cat, because the Ten of Pentacles is where this road was always going, and you're closer to it than you know. Drop a comment and let me know how this landed. I love reading your responses. Some of you will feel every single word, some will connect with one specific card, and some will find something here you needed to hear without even knowing it. That's what the cards do. They always find what needs to be found. Thank you so much to everyone who stayed until the very end. Your support, the likes, the comments, the shares, the fact that you're here means more than I know how to say. Take care of yourselves out there. Protect your energy. Guard your magic. Trust your lantern, and remember, the things that are truly meant for you cannot be taken by anyone. The dream is real. The lantern never went out, and the light is coming faster than you think. Sending you all so much love. See you in the next one.